And we are live. Joseph Polaro, how are you, brother?
Doing good today, man. Own Your Gifts, episode 5, season 2. We have an awesome guest. Let's get it rolling with a tight time frame. So we can't be running our mouths all hour.
Thanks, Joey. Everyone, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us again. Please let us know if you are joining us for the first time, and if you're returning back, we'd love to hear from you. You know, one of the things, Joey, I don't know, you know, when we put it out there to our audience, just to drop a comment, let us know where they're coming from. It helps drive a little bit more engagement and get our reach out there a little further. This is Own Your Gifts, a show created by myself and my legendary, I finally got that thumb right, co-host, Joey Polaro. Over the next 45 minutes sharp, we will be helping teach and share age-old cutting-edge tips, tools, exercises, and hacks to plug into the higher forces of gratitude. And we are also incredibly blessed to have a special guest join us each week to share their own experiences and give us all an opportunity to ask any questions. Our legendary guest today is Annie Lieb. Let's get Annie.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Annie.
Hey, Annie.
Good to see you both. I love legendary. That's a great adjective. I'm good with that.
That's an Australian thing, man. If they call you legend, that means they like you.
Wow.
I figured that out.
I like to dive into that. Look, let me try and read. I want to give a bit of a pitch here from Annie. Annie's a mum, a guide, an entrepreneur, a goddess, and an empathetic warrior. Annie Lieb was put on this earth with a definitive purpose to model the way to personal freedom, healing, and fulfillment. Her journey has led her down the path of stepping into and living in her soul center. The moment. I love that. I can't wait to talk about that. And he's also the founder and CEO of LLC, a personal development and coaching company. And he resides in Philadelphia, which I can't wait to talk a little bit more about that. I love Philly, by the way. I love Jersey City too, Joey. And she has 2 children, Sammy and Evie, and their dog, Randall. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Thanks.
Randall
I'm glad
is
to
a
hear. I
superstar.
appreciate it. Randall is, man. He's all over LinkedIn. There's KDJ saying hi already. He's
Kenneth. Yeah, we were talking last week. We think there's multiple Kenneths out there.
There have to be, because he's
everywhere.
He's everywhere. Kenny is the best. He's such an OG follower. He's the best.
I always say he makes me hungry, you know, because he talks in places. And I always say, Kenny, you make me hungry. Kenny, thanks for joining us. Always incredible support. Hello to Jordan as well. Joey, we kick off the show. Annie, and Joey, and to the people out there with a really cool little exercise, and it's where we have a think about what we have done well today and something we could possibly work on tomorrow. Would that be right, Joey?
That's the way we do it. And I think it's super important for me to be focusing on what I'm doing well and how I could do a little bit better tomorrow while continue to give myself permission to be human. And so, I don't know, Danny boy, why don't you start us off? What have you done well today? I mean, it's early Friday morning, so the gyms are closed, so you can't go to that one.
Well, there you go. Well, guess what, Joey? As I was walking up the stairs to my beautiful apartment, so there's one thing I'm grateful, but I was thinking, you know, often the thing I do well is train before we get on here. And yeah, it's a bit repetitive, but you know what? There is no gym open, and I've managed to pull together a few dumbbells. I've got a crate outside, and I'm following a workout at home exercise plan. And, mate, I think the reason I do that is because it's a great kickstart to my day. It gets my endorphins rushing. It reminds me what my purpose is, and it makes me feel good. So, yes, I've killed it once again with the training in the morning. I do it at least 6 days a week. So it's important to me. It's something I could work on tomorrow. Look, I'm a bit afraid or a bit ashamed to even say this, but whatever. But I picked up the cigarettes just a couple of days ago, you know. Been on the bungers. been on the bunk. We're in this full lockdown here in Sydney. You're not even allowed out of your house unless you go into the shop for essentials. So whatever, that's not even an excuse. But yeah, tomorrow I could think about, maybe today I could think about getting off those. Annie?
Yes, cigarettes are something. At least you're not putting a needle in your arm. So give yourself
exactly. It's a good point. So what did I do well today? Well, I showed up here. I had 3 lives today. I made 2 out of the 3. Mike Paterano covered me for my other live show because I needed a little break. Things are a little crazy right now, but I'm going to say that I did well as I showed up and I showed up authentically as me. And it was hard because, my go-to, my fallback is to cancel. Like that's what myself wants to do. Like, I'm not feeling great. I'm just going to cancel. I want to put my head under the covers and but like, I have to force myself to show up. And I did. What could I do better tomorrow? Have a little bit more self-compassion. I'm not the best at giving myself that compassion. So that's what I would do better tomorrow.
Thanks for sharing that, Annie. Thank you. For me, I had my day yesterday. I had a intense emotional day. I let my thinking get on top of me. And once it did, I have tools and I have, rituals and routines, and I have ways to manage my mental and emotional hygiene. And I'm doing all this stuff, and exercise is one of those things. Getting into nature is one of those things, but I'm doing this stuff and it's not budging. And to be honest with you, it's the first time in 5 or 6 years that has happened. I am doing some deep work, energetic work and like self-introspection work, which probably plays a part in it. But like, I was just, what I did well was last night, and this has not come easy for me. And what I did was just allowed myself to feel that way and reaffirmed myself that I was coming out the other side, and it was gone this morning. And it's sometimes like when you get that shit thrown on you, you can't muscle it. Like, there's not a technique that you simply just need to let it flow through. And that does not come easy for me. And, I made myself suffer before I did. But I did that really well today. And sure enough, I had a day that I made it through work and all my other obligations with less stress and more ease. Go figure. What I can do better is, I spent a decent amount of time with self-care today. And I think I could, typically I try to reach out and be of service to somebody, even if it's something small on a daily basis. And I really didn't do that. And I think I could do that better tomorrow.
Well done. Thanks, Joey. Thanks, Annie. This is our daily inventory, what we just did. Annie, I know this is my daily inventory. This is a tool I use every single evening just to think about what I could. It's important to acknowledge the good things we do. I think that's incredibly important, our assets. And then it's also important to think about those things we could possibly work on tomorrow. Let's get started. I just want to say I think I met Annie online on the LinkedIn platform probably around about 9 months ago. We've had a couple of chats, and I'm really grateful that's what I do. If I like somebody's stuff, I'll send them a message. But I love, one of the things that really stands out about you, Annie, and I love this word, it gets thrown around in recovery a lot, is that authenticity. I feel like you're quite a beautiful, authentic person. And when we share our truth, there are people out there, whether they say or not, they're hearing you, they're feeling you. And I love that about you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That warms my heart because that's really my message. And I show up to be true. Oh, now I'm alone. I show up to be truly me every single day. And that's what you see when you see my posts, is just how I am and where I am. That's why I don't plan my content, whether that's right or wrong. But I will tell you that my journey has been an arduous one, but it is the most incredible place to be. I was telling you guys before that I just didn't have the best day today, but it's still the most fulfilled and whole that I've ever been in my entire 42 years. And that's because of this journey that I've taken and what, we're building as a company, and Mike and I are doing to just change the world. So all I can really do is show up as me. I don't know who else to be. It's not always fun, but
people are afraid to do that, Annie, and that's where I think your courage in doing it, and how empowering is. I just heard from you. It's so powerful to be able to drop those fronts and tell your truth, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, because when you can really show up, when you go through this road that I've traveled, and you reach your what we call the soul center, and you're aligned with your core values and your purpose and your mission. There's no, you don't have to be anyone else. You're just you, unapologetically you. And what I always say is, oh, thank you, Brian. See, I think I'm the host. I act like I'm the host and I comment on the comments. I'm sorry. So,
that's okay.
Okay. So what I do know is that I used to use the word bulletproof in this soul-centered place, but I don't use that word anymore, because it's not that I'm not affected by what other people think or say or feel. It's that my worth is not touched. I still have my worth no matter what. And the fact that I'm in my, leaning into my core values and my soul center, that worth barometer is exactly where it needs to be right now. And that's really for the first time in my life. And when I'm not leaning into that, I'm not authentically me, and I feel off. And that's sort of where I am. I'm just like leaning into this world of beauty right now.
I love that. Thank you, Annie. I want to hear more about, how you guide people into their soul centers with your breath framework. But what I really am interested in is the road you traveled to get to be a coach. I'm interested in some of the adversarial conditions of your life, or some of the more challenging times of your life that were really difficult and ultimately turned out to be your greatest strengths to do what you do best, which is to serve others.
How much time do we have? Talk about
we've got enough time for the PG version,
Here's the way I tell. I'll start my story in 2014. In 2014, I took a match and I threw it on my life and I blew everything up. I got sober. I left my marriage. I split up my kids, and it was the most. My friends abandoned me. My parents didn't know what to do with me. Everything. When you talk about rock bottom, that was rock bottom for me. I found out a couple of months later, the end of 2014, that I had been misdiagnosed for 20 years with depression and anxiety, and I actually have bipolar type 2. So that contributed to a lot of tumultuous events and a lot of my mood disorder and everything that wasn't properly diagnosed and treated for many years. And I wore a mask, and I tried to put on this happy front, as we all have. And it worked for a really long time. And I partied really hard and tried to numb out all the pain, but it was impossible to do without wrecking my life. So I was as Mike says, I was a wrecking ball in my life. And since then, it's now 2021, in the middle of 2021, I've built my life back brick by brick. And there were trials and tribulations throughout. I was engaged, that didn't work, but I went back to school to get my executive MBA. It ended up being, I graduated during the pandemic. So it was COVID. I came out ready, guns a-blazing in May of 2020, recently, ready to get this big consulting job that I had gone back to school for. And I'm like, I had this little consulting firm and I was coaching one person, and I'm like, wait a minute, I don't want to do pharmaceutical consulting. Like, I'm like this, the way I am, who I am is coaching people, is helping people, guiding them. But I skipped one important part of the story. When I did that, the day when I signed my divorce papers in 2015, when everything was shit, I saw a poem on the wall by Ralph Waldo Emerson, and it said something about breathing. And I was like, breath. You can take everything from me, but you can't take my breath. That's mine. So I went to the tattoo parlor, and I'm not like a tattoo girl, and I got it tattooed on my hip, the word breath in my writing. So that comes in later, obviously. So go on, and I'm like, okay, I'm stripped of everything. This is all I have. I build my life back. I go back to school. I get engaged. That doesn't work out. And I meet Mike Paterano in early 2020. And we instantly bonded. And our journeys are different, but also very similar. And as he knew about the breath tattoo because of how important it was to me. And as we're talking and realizing sort of where we're both supposed to be in life, we're like, how do we define this journey? And we thought of the word breath. So breath is an acronym. The framework is an acronym. For B is begin where you are. R is reclaim your power. E is excavate your core values. A is allow. T is through. And H is heal. So this specifically mimics and mirrors our journeys both together and apart. And it helps us look at the ways we've begun, traveled through the journey and gotten to a place of healing, fulfillment, wholeness, again, in that soul center, which is another term we coined because we think it goes from like the way that you operate is like you're either mind-centered, heart-centered, or soul-centered. So mind-centered is more stuck in ego. Heart-centered is more of that sort of an authentic, empathic person, but soul-centered is really aligning with your true purpose and who you are. And leaning into that core value piece and reaching a place of wholeness and fulfillment. So in my soul center now, and Mike is as well, we're now building Annie Lieb LLC and this team around us. And there's all this stuff happening. And you know what comes down to, guys, and you'll both understand this, is like I start to feel like I'm not worth it sometimes. I fall back into that mindset. And I'm like, this can't, because a lot of good is happening. A lot of good. And it's been blood, sweat, and tears. But I get into that worthlessness mindset sometimes of like, is this really good? Do I deserve this? Like, is this? And like, believe me, like I have put my life into this business. This is my world besides my children. It's everything. And it's my heart and soul. But I still, we still have those mindset ways. I'm a recovering addict. Like this is where my mind goes. Worthless, not worth it, not good enough, not deserving, not lovable. And at the end of the day, I just had a talk with Mike an hour ago. He's like, you're worth all of this. Like, why are you running from this? So, I had to come back to center. I had to go to my accountability partner. I have to remember my core values, my integrity, my honesty, my trust, all of those things, my empathy, have self-compassion, and just remember that we all are on this road, right? And just keep myself in check and get centered again. And that's sort of like how I got in front of you tonight. That leads me to here. Wait, there's one more part of the story. So in the midst of all of this, recently, Mike and I were talking and he said something, he said emes. And I said, what did you say? How do you know that word? Because it's a really old Yiddish word and it means truth. So this was back in like months and months ago. So I'm like, I was going to get another tattoo on my other hip because they're both hidden. You can't see them. Like they're on my hips. You can't see them unless, okay. So I was going to get it on my other hip. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get that written on my wrist. So that says truth on my wrist. And that was when I fully really stepped into my truth and who I am, like leaning 100%. This was February of 2021. So recently, where I just was like, I'm all in. This is me. This is who I am. This is where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be doing this. We're supposed to change the world. We're supposed to be on this mission. And this is how I get before you right now. So that's my story. Some of it.
Thanks, Annie. I wonder what it is about. And do you know what? I think it's important to acknowledge, often we say we're in recovery, like an addict goes to that self-pity or that mode that you're talking about. Yeah. Call it whatever you want, but it's just a human condition, isn't it? Yeah. I think the difference is, for me, when I go to that and I decide to maybe fuck up and pick up a drink or a drug, well, I could be dead really quickly, So
yeah, I mean, it's like my subconscious jumps in and it wants me to go back into that programming that I used to be in, fall back into those ways, and it sneaks in. It just flows into you, and you just have to be able to say, you know what? No. And like you said, Joey, you said it. So used all my verbiage, like allow. Like today, I just had to allow. And I had to go through. Part of the breath framework is allowing and going through. Like, and now I'm here and I already feel whole again. It was just, you know, sometimes I get in that frame of mind, and that's okay, right? Like allowing yourself to not be okay all the time.
Yeah, I could definitely relate to obviously I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict in recovery also. And I don't think addicts of any kind have cornered the market on like this inferiority complex, you know. But I can tell you for me, that it's the most prominent voice that I have that runs on automatic. And it, you know, you used all the correct adjectives that, like, it's like, I'm not enough, like there's not enough time, there's not enough energy, there's not enough love, there's not enough help, there's not enough people to serve. And it's always there. I wake up to it. And I've been in recovery for going on 12 years, and I have really good living habits, and I'm really conscious of my thinking. And I'm convinced that I'll never be absolved from that. And that's okay, because I need to be able to recognize it and to identify it for what it is, which is it's a lie. First off, it's a lie. There's not anybody on the planet who isn't worth it, you know? And in order for me to transform it or combat it or allow it to move through, I need to be able to identify it and label it as its first step. So like, I'm able to most of the time hear that voice and label it for what it is, which is my lower nature or my disease or my part X, whatever it is that you want to call it. At that point, I have a choice to make, you know, and just having the power to choose today, you know, having the power to choose which voice to give the stage to, you know, what to pay attention to and what not to pay attention to. And I'm not like this little teacup in the middle of the ocean getting tossed around, you know, in the middle of a hurricane and just at whim of every thought, emotion, or feeling that I have. So I could really, that's the struggle is realigning with my truth on a day-to-day basis, and everybody's truth is that, you know, I am enough. You know, I have something of value to offer the world. Like I have virtues and I have gifts and I add to people's lives, and like my head doesn't want to believe that, and that's okay. It's like, as long as I'm able to identify it and label it for what it is, I can move from there.
That awareness piece is huge. And, you know, just sort of like self-awareness and knowing yourself, and just having, like, I think people in your life to say, just like aloud for a minute, just check yourself. This is not going to, because my big thing is like always and never. I'm huge into those two words. When I get in this is never going to go away. I'm always going to feel like this. And then it's like the next day, like you said, you woke up and it's like I took a shower and I was like, I feel so much better. Like, Annie, not always going to stay. Just take a breath, you know, speaking of no pun intended, like just be for a minute. So, you know, even so, but our whole point together, the three of us, is saying, like, even people who practice this every day, this is our life practice, to be in recovery and to live as our best selves. And we have done so much work. We still get back to that place where we have to check ourselves. So, you know, it's everybody. We're just human.
You know, definitely. Can I just share something? You know, I spent 17 years, you know, out there on the streets using and abusing any substance I could to change the way I feel and to avoid me. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And then I came into recovery very closely, just a month after Joey, actually, in September 2009. And I hated myself, and I had a lot of that stuff going on, a lot of self-doubt. And that, what I'm getting at is, I actually today don't wake up with that head on me a lot. So, and I guess what I'm saying is that my default pretty much today is a really positive default. And even though I do go through my struggles, of course, maybe once a day at some little level, but those tools that I have picked up, and he's talking about the breath acronym, absolutely. Like I use a different set of framework to get through my day. And it's almost like I enjoy a bit of pain sometimes because it makes me feel alive and it makes me practice what I've learned. And it also makes me realize that what I do to counteract it really, really works, So I just wanted to share that. It's not always like that, is it? It's not always a struggle for us. We got beautiful, happy lives.
Right. I agree with you 100%. I think it keeps us humble, because I could very easily go off the rails and be like, I have my shit all together. Like it is on, like I get on those highs too. I mean, remember, I have a chemical imbalance. Let's not pull punches, like it's not like this all the time. So, but I think it keeps you humble. Like today, it checked me right into the wall. And that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm still sober.
and Annie and I, at the beginning of the show, and I love this, I'm in the future for Annie or for both of you guys. It's Friday, 11:28 a.m. And it's Thursday. And Annie said to me, what's tomorrow going to look like for me? I thought that was beautiful. Annie and I said, it's going to be a beautiful day. The sun's out. I feel good. I feel grateful at the moment. So, Annie, I promise you tomorrow is going to, you're going to kill it.
Thank you. I think tomorrow is going to be a great day. It's Friday. There's so much good. There's so much good. I just needed to be kicked in the face a little bit today, but that's okay.
Just a gentle reminder. And sorry, Joey, before we've had so much engagement, we can't keep up with all these comments. Thank you to everyone for supporting us along the journey. I know Annie likes to respond to comments too. I don't think we can get exactly the time, but Brian keeps jumping in, and your friend Michael has jumped in a lot. Kenny as well. We're grateful for everyone who's watching, and it is a beautiful thing that we can get on here and just have a organic discussion around recovery and how we get through our day and share that message of hope. Because here in Sydney, and look, you guys have probably had it heaps worse in America. I know it's been crazy over there, but at the moment, I think it's a bit of a rude shock for a lot of our community here, being locked up, not being able to get out. And although I'm really experiencing connecting with people, I love using FaceTime, video chats. We get these opportunities, but a lot of people are stuck at home, I'm sure, over there too. And I don't know, maybe don't have those tools and are in fear and scared about how they get through days. And I think that's great that we can bring that to people. And this is my cat. He keeps jumping up. This is Leonardo.
Hi, Leonardo.
Great name.
Kenny mentioned
appearances too. I don't know, he's snoring.
Kenny mentioned that I should get the cat on screen. So there you go, Kenny. We are listening to your comments.
So, Annie, you said, I'm sorry, did I interrupt you?
No, not at all.
You mentioned the word humble or humility. And I've heard, I don't know, a dozen different definitions of humility. It's a term that's kind of tossed around, especially in rooms of recovery. And I can share my perspective of that and what it means to me. Humility means truth. So that includes for me to say I'm this, untarnished, all good, even angelic, or even child of God, and not acknowledge my lower nature, I'm not living in truth. And you mentioned the ego. That's what the ego does. It puts us either in an inferior or a superior position, but the truth lies somewhere in the middle. And I remember early, not even early in recovery, to be honest with you, about 5 years into recovery, when I realized that, and it just I understood it intellectually, but when it really landed and it set me free, that I wasn't all good or all bad. I was both. Mm-hmm. And so I have a lower nature. I have a dark side, and it's okay. I need to embrace it. I need to know what it looks like, what it sounds like, how it behaves, so I can choose to pay attention to my higher nature. But me, make a pretend it's not there leaves me susceptible for it to take over,
I do know. To me, the word is real. Humble. It just keeps humility. It just keeps me real, and it keeps me how I want to show up every day as me. When I don't have that peace, when I'm not aligned with my truth, as you say, and remember how important truth is to me. It's tattooed on my wrist. That's how important it is to me, because for so long as a human, but also as an addict, I didn't tell the truth. There were so many lies, webs of lies, and just so wasn't aligned with who I am as a person at my core that I was constantly just screwed up over it. I just battled myself constantly. So today, the humility, it checks me. It keeps me in check. It keeps me real. And that's who I want to be. That's who I want to show up as every day. Truly, truly me. And that's my whole shtick. It's not a shtick. It's like a real, that's who I am. Like, I don't act if I turn this off, if I close this computer, I don't act any different. This is who I am. And I want people to know that's okay to do that. Like, it's okay to show up as you. Like you said, you're enough. You kind of went off topic, but you get it.
No, that's spot on topic. One of the definitions I know of humility is to be yourself in front of all people, whether they're down here or up, like to be the same person amongst all of us. And that's actually a really difficult thing to do at times. But I was just thinking, like, how do you become more of that, Annie, do you think? Because it's easy, what you just said is just be yourself, okay? It's the age-old problem. Like, we all know we just want to be ourselves, and I feel like I've got it a little bit. I can be myself, but how do you practice just being yourself and not feeling judged? And even though you are going to be judged, but how do you just, even though you're getting judged, how do you just be yourself?
It's a great question, because be yourself is like a whole lot of BS if you don't explain how to do it, right? Yeah. Anybody can say that. So I just said it a little less eloquently than you did, but right, cool. You have to, the breath framework is the perfect way you have to begin. You have to figure out where you're beginning. Where's your start? Meet yourself where you are. Figure out where that beginning is. And many people show up and they just don't know where they're beginning. Where's your starting point? Secondly, you besides reclaiming your power, you need to excavate those core values. You have to figure out who you are. What makes you you? Where are you giving your power away? Where's your self-worth barometer and why? And like, I didn't know what my core values were before a couple years, even less, a year ago, a year and a half ago. Like, I never looked at those. I'm like, oh, yeah, core values, I know what they are. This is a funny story, guys. You'll love this story real quick. Please, so I'm looking through this list of words one day, and I'm looking at these words and I'm like, what are my core values out of these words? It was like a list of 150 words. And I saw, I'm like, obviously I know my core values. Who doesn't? I'm like, empathy, integrity, and I'm listing these, and I go, freedom. I look at the list. I said, I laughed to myself. Why would anybody pick freedom? What do they mean? Like not being in jail? Like, why would you pick that as a core value? Mind you, I do the excavation. I start to really do the work and dig in. And freedom, personal freedom, is by far my overarching core value, over the umbrella over all of my values. So the one that I had joked about and laughed about and said, how would anyone pick that? I found out to be totally mine. My biggest one. My overall, Annie having her personal freedom is everything. It's everything to me. So I find that interesting. Going into it, you're thinking one thing and then you figure it out afterwards and you're like, what?
I love how you started with begin. Like, if you're going to start to practice humility, I guess you got to begin. You have to kind of make all right. Because for me, I was coming from this completely hidden character. I lied to everyone. Nothing was the truth.
Totally.
So that's where you start. I think you've answered that. Mm-hmm. Hey, Zoe, what's your number one core value? So freedom for Annie. What about you?
Yeah, I think we align there. It's freedom for me also. And to me, it's freedom to choose. Freedom to choose the type of person that I want to be. Freedom to choose how I want to show up in the world, the type of man that I want to be, how I want to contribute to the world. And, obviously it means a whole lot of things. I mean, there's freedom from my thinking. There's freedom from my disease. There's actual freedom. Like, like Danny, Danny's been locked up. I've been locked up before. Like, you're not free. So, freedom to make choices about how I live. Like, that is my core values. And my recovery, my health and wellness, and giving meaning to my past suffering, my past pain, my past hurt, including, me hurting others, which, if you live the life where I did, all you would need to do is make contact with me to get, even brush up against me to get, a little bit of that. And so freedom's my number one core value. And for me, it's about like choosing, I get to choose. Like, I'm not my past. Like, I'm not like any type of beliefs or other values that were injected into me through parents or school or religion or media, or even dragged into this place from a past life. I'm not any of those things. I get to choose. You know what I mean? So like, I don't necessarily know if I never knew who I was, and I didn't need to know, because I get to choose. It's not like I'm up here running a play or an act, but I get to choose how I show up in this world today. And that's freedom. And that's what's most important to me. I was looking at this breath framework earlier today, and and the allow part, that's where I really struggle, is asking and receiving. And it's wanting something really, really bad, putting the work in to get it, but at the same time, we need to be willing not to have it. It's like non-attachment. And it's definitely like something that is not my strong suit, and I'm definitely aware of. It's like, allowing. Like, I did that. Like, I got an opportunity to taste what that feels like over the course of the last 2 days, and it was like, wow, this is all I needed to do. I just needed to allow. I didn't need to change it. I need to, changing the way I feel is what I do. I take different vehicles than I did back then. Back then, I used to change the way I feel with violence, or a bottle, or a pipe, or a needle, or whatever. Like, those are other types of toxic behavior. Those are the ways I changed how I might feel. But today, I change how I may feel all the time. Except I do it by practicing gratitude. I do it by being of service to others. I do it by paying attention to what I'm doing well. Those are other ways I change how I feel. So I get to be able to change how I feel, but there are those times when you just need to go through it, and I need to allow. And until I allow it, I'm going to be in it, Do you find when you're working with your clients, is the allow piece, is that the challenge? Like, how do you teach that? Like, it's hard to teach it. Like, we were talking before the show, like, okay, surrender to win. It's a fucking foreign concept. How do you teach somebody surrender? What are the even words that you can even put into it? You can't. It's not something that you could teach or transmit.
It's definitely on. First of all, I want to commiserate for a second and tell you that allow is by far my hardest letter, by far, out of all of them to go through. Each time I have to, allowing is my hardest. One of my team members, one of my other coaches, Felicia, said something amazing the other day in a meeting we were in. She said, hold on to something. Wait, let me put my hand here. Hold on to something in your hands and open your hands. Let it go. Okay. And then it falls to the table. Hold in something in your hand here and open your hand and let it be. It doesn't fall. It's still in your hands. You're just letting it be. It's just sitting. That's allowing. It's the one little change of turning your palm upside down or letting it go versus letting it be. I thought it was brilliant. Like, I was like, did you just come up with that? It's crazy, but she is brilliant. But it's so true, right? What I look at allowing is not relinquishing the reins, but it's not holding on to that control and tightening the reins. It's just loosening your hands. You can hold on to the reins. You don't have to let them go, but just let them be in your hand. Does that make sense?
Totally, man. It makes me think of, water, right? If you put water in your hand and you just hold the little cup out and you let the water sit, it'll sit there. But as soon as you grasp it, it's all over the place. It squeezes through your fingers and ends up on the ground. Like, that's a really good metaphor, Annie. Thank you.
That's.
Oh, so I just as a wonderful host here, I just remembering Annie needs to duck off sharp in 5 minutes. Is that right, Annie?
Yeah, a couple minutes.
Man.
This is awesome. I don't want to. It's a great conversation. I could talk for hours about it.
Well, all right. Then let me drop my core value, and I don't know if this is. Well, I love freedom for sure too, but I truly think the thing that really makes me happiest and lights me up the most and brings the most value is sharing kindness. The thing is, like, kindness, it makes me really happy when I do some stuff out there in the street or I just practice kindness. I feel like it gives me everything that freedom that you guys have just discussed. Actually, it's like that. That saying, the more I give, the more the universe seems to provide too. And more than that, like, it really does light me up to see someone smile, and so many people out there. And I say this often, people come back to me years later when I remembered their name and I said hello by their name. It's important. One of my acts of kindness that I really try very regularly is to get to know somebody's name of somebody who I don't know and then say hello by their name. It's a really, really powerful tool. And this show is around owning our gifts, which sort of leads us back to, it's one of the biggest gifts that I have is around sharing that level of kindness with people.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the more you fill people, the more you get filled, right? Yeah, I mean, it's healing to you. That's what heals Danny. So I understand.
Yeah. Hey, Joey, so just let's get this part of the show out of the way, in case Annie does need to leave us. Well, how do we wrap up this show normally, Joey?
We like to share, a simple, effective tip, tool, exercise, or strategy to plug into and generate the higher force of gratitude. And I found a tool recently that I didn't even know existed. And it might be something that people are aware of, but I really don't do well with silence. So almost always I have the music going on in the background, or, I don't watch TV, but there's usually almost always music. Like when I'm hiking, I have my headphones in and I'm listening to a podcast or something along those lines, or music or an audio book. And, even when I'm like hanging on the beach, even when I'm reading, it's like there's always sound. And, I started to realize that, like, all right, like I went over to my mother's house and my mother, it's fucking silent over there. And I'm like, what the hell is going on over here? You guys sit around, like listen to each other think and go crazy. Yeah. I'm like, so I just was like, all right, I'm going to practice this and I'm going to do it in small doses. And, I specifically, I go into the park and I leave my phone. And I just become, I'm sure it's a mindfulness practice really is what it is, but it's just not something that I had anticipated would generate a deep amount of gratitude. Is I just sat in silence and I paid attention to the sounds around me, the sights, the smells, the air, the children laughing, everything. And I was just overwhelmed with the feeling of gratitude. And I think it was one of those, like, sometimes God throws you a bone and you get struck with gratitude. And I'm so used to using something to generate it, because most of the times I'm not grateful. So I got to practice it in order to generate it, which is fine. You don't need to be grateful to practice gratitude. Practice generates feelings of gratitude. So that's mine is take a set amount of time, a small chunk, a large chunk, and just be in silence. That's my tip.
Beautiful.
What about you, Annie?
I'm a writer. I get into my space and I write very early in the morning, 4:35, 5:30 a.m. And it's quiet. and even the dog's asleep, like everybody's sleeping, and I just get into myself and my words and my soul, and it just like grows the gratitude out of me, and I just feel this thing that comes over me, and it's like, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be, and I'm so grateful for it. So that's what works for me, just writing.
Thanks so much, Annie. Joey, that just reminded me, this is part of the show we need to be documenting, because writing's a new one. That's beautiful. Yeah, great. And it makes so much sense too, Annie. I hate writing. It won't work for me, but I'm sure for people that do like writing, I use everything audio or video. I'm just anti. But I get it, and I've heard so much positive feedback, creative feedback from people when they can write. Do you know, can I share this with you? Do you know, like writing a journal and videoing, this is a bit of knowledge for you, there's a difference between what comes from your head to paper can actually be changed and manipulated.
When I talk to my clients, I like almost insist that they write with a pen and paper, because there's something in a different cathartic way that happens when you write it out versus when you're typing it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So my little tip, and I have shared this before and we're reminded of it today, is just around courage, being brave, okay? Like we have touched on that subject of how do we begin to be our authentic or our honest, humble selves. I think my first step, and it could work in with your breath analysis, would be to be brave, and to have some courage. And it takes, for me, I literally have to go and do it, I used to have to do that. These days it feels much more easier, but I would just encourage people to at least just at one step, if you want to do something, just be brave and step out of your comfort zone, because the rewards are, for me, always tenfold. I always go, good on you, give myself a pat on the back, because that's what life is about, getting out of our comfort zone, taking risks, and being rewarded for it, So, yeah, be brave is
awesome.
Thank you, both of you. That was great. So we're wrapping it up. It's 46:59. Annie,
thank you for having me. I'm so appreciative.
Annie,
I love being with
so
both of you and sharing space. I appreciate you both.
You're a legend, Eddie. I wish there was so much more I could talk. I want to talk about Philadelphia. It's one of my.
I'll come on again and we'll talk about that, and I'll read you something that I've written. So maybe we can do that next time.
Beautiful.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Annie.
All right, Annie, if you want to jump out.
All right, I'm out of here. Peace, guys.
All right, see you, Annie.
Thank you, brother.
That was cool. Joey, we're
still live, right?
All right. We're still live. We're just winging
it around.
Yeah, look, I've got a couple more minutes too, but I just wanted to say, we've had quite a few guests join us for the entire show, and I just want to share my gratitude. And what I just absolutely love the most is that, honestly, I know that, that we're doing good stuff here,
Yeah, it's nice. It's like my frame of mind when I come into these shows is if one person comes away from the show with a little more hope, or possibly, picked up on something that they can identify with or use in their life to go higher. If we help one person, we've done our job. And hopefully we did. And I do want to thank everybody that Brian Golod, thank you so much for being for participating and adding so much value here in the comments. I'll have to connect with you. There's seems to be a bunch of really interesting material here that I'd like to read and maybe discuss at a later time with you.
Yeah, Brian's an absolute legend. And
is he Aussie?
No, he's from. I think correct me, please, Brian. From Toronto. Well, he's in Canada. He's one of my legendary Canadian connections. And let's just finish with this, right? Brian asked an interesting question here, which I think we've probably got a different view on it. So I think you actually said, Joey, at one stage that we are not our past, right? This is what Brian's referring to right here. And Brian's asked, can you say that you are also your past, which is interesting. And he goes on to say, and that you know better and you've learned and choose different, etc. And I hear what you're saying, Brian, absolutely. And I'd love to hear what you think too, Joey. I think it's just, yes, one of the gifts that I've been given, and it's one of the promises in the fellowship, is that we do not wish to shut the door on our past and also instead embrace our past to be the person we are today. So I think when Joey said that we are not our past, I think today it's in the present. I certainly acknowledge my past all the time. Would you say, Joey?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good question, and yeah, you're kind of on target with what my thinking was of it, and I think I don't have much business in the past unless I am looking closely at experiences to uncover the lesson, the blessing, and the meaning. So yes, I mean, my past formulates the way that I am today if I give it a different meaning, you know, and that meaning needs to build strength in me so I can use those experiences to be of service to others. So yeah, I mean, I don't think you're off base saying, yes, we are also our past.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Thank you for that.
It's just the way we word it, isn't it? And you know what, Brian, and anyone out there, I often get asked that question in some of the, you know, stuff that I get in amongst about my past and do I wish I had done things different? And I just want to say, crazy as this is, I want to acknowledge that, yes, I wish I hadn't hurt some people and I do have some regrets around that. But apart from that, I would not be sitting here right now having this conversation with you guys if it wasn't for my hectic, chaotic, painful past. I love my past. My past is exactly who I am today, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Like, this is why I have such an amazing life, because of the shitty or great past that I had. So, yeah, I felt that's important to acknowledge. I do not wish to shut the door or close anything to my past. I embrace my past and I just try and be the best me today, you know?
You're doing a great job, brother.
You too, brother.
Thank you so much, everybody, for participating. And we'll be back next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.
What about this, Joey? I forgot to run this. Hang on a second.
Picture, not for nothing.
Boom. We'll be back again next week. It's, yeah. We're just
I'm back with you. All right, let's wrap it up.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Joey. See you next week. Have we got a guest lined up for next week, Joey?
Yeah, we do.
Let's start plugging that. Once again, thank you, everyone. Wait, there's a couple more comments. Let's just finish right on this. Yeah, very good. Thanks, Brian. All right, mate. Joey and everybody, we'll see you next week. Hank, stay with me for a sec, Joey.